Hey guys, welcome to Waste Less Westbrook. Today, mushroom arancini, one of my all-time favorite dishes. I'm going to be doing a little waste less twist on the dish, and I've got some sun-dried tomato oil, which I'm going to turn into an amazing aioli, and I've also got some parsley stalks, which I'm going to turn into an amazing, delicious, silky herb oil. Who's ready to turn their food scraps into something amazing, delicious, and incredible? Let's get into it, guys. So to start building a complex mushroom flavor for this dish, I'm going to start off by roasting some Portobello mushrooms. I'm going to place about 500 mils of water over the top of the mushrooms and season with a little bit of salt. This little hack is not only going to gently poach the mushrooms, but flavor will be released into the water, giving us a delicious mushroom stock. Next up to build flavor is onions, which I'm finely dicing. I want them to be super fine so they just melt away in the risotto. And the same goes for the garlic. Give it a nice fine dice. Prepare a medium pot with some butter and olive oil, then gently sweat down your onions. Adding a pinch of salt at this point is going to draw out any moisture, and it's going to cook your onions quicker. Once the onions are soft, you can add your garlic. Another very important step for risotto is toasting your rice. This will create a little shell around each grain and will help the rice absorb moisture and not break down when cooking. Then for more body and flavor, I'll be deglazing the pan with about 150 ml of white wine. Cook out the alcohol until it's almost fully evaporated. At this point, I'll be adding the mushroom stock. Let's have a look how it turned out. The mushrooms are deeply caramelized and they have a nice earthy flavor. The stock is like getting something from nothing. It's a great way to introduce more mushroom flavor, and it's almost like making your own food scraps. Slowly keep adding the mushroom stock until the rice is cooked. And you want to know how to tell if the rice is cooked? Taste your goddamn rice, that's how. Okay, but in all seriousness, guys, you're looking for a nice al dente risotto rice. The best way to find out is just bite it in half, and it should be slightly undercooked in the center. Then to finish the arancini, I'm going to be adding some freshly grated Parmesan and some chopped parsley. A good risotto should be slightly wet, but for arancini, it's important to not have as much moisture so you can roll tighter bowls. This, for me, is perfect. You can see each individual grain, but there's still a little bit of moisture there. Slop that bad boy onto a baking sheet and allow to cool. Now we're going to work on our garnishes. This for me was like an ongoing joke in a lot of kitchens I worked in, making an aioli from sun-dried tomato oil. We'd always talk about it, but never actually do it. And I don't even know why we didn't do it. This was absolutely delicious. For the aioli, you'll need 2 egg yolks, but I really should have used 3, and you'll see why in a moment. Pop that in a blender with some Dijon mustard, apple cider vinegar, then mix on high for about 1 minute, and slowly start adding your oil. This was about 300 mils.
Oh, that's good. Poppin'.
Sure. At this stage, I was happy with the taste, but not really the color. So I decided to soak some saffron in some water and add it to the aioli. This thinned out the aioli a little too much, and that's where that extra egg yolk would have came in handy. Cooking with food scraps is often uncharted territory for me as well, so I don't always get it right the first time. Next up, we're going to utilize everything from the parsley by making a herb oil from the stalks. I'm going to quickly blanch the chopped stalks for about 30 seconds, then allow them to cool down in some ice water. Then in the final 5 seconds, I'll just be adding some spare parsley leaves and basil leaves. Squeeze out the excess water, then place in a blender with about 300 to 400 mils of olive oil and a little bit of salt, and give that a blend. Now your herb oil is ready to use, but if you want it to be really chefy, you could pass this through a fine mesh sieve or some muslin cloth to get it really fine, but I think for home, this is absolutely fine. Finally, to roll out our arancini balls before frying. I usually go by eye, but if you wanted to weigh these out, these will be about 60 to 70 grams each. To crumb the arancini, I'm going to be setting up the crumbing station as normal with flour and breadcrumbs, but instead of using whole eggs, I'm going to be using egg whites that are left over from making the aioli. To keep your hands as clean as possible, it's always best to use one wet hand and one dry hand when crumbing. To save on oil when deep frying, I prefer using a wok as you get more surface area and you don't have to use as much oil. The oil is going to be set to about 180 degrees and I'm going to fry the arancini for about 5 to 7 minutes. Definitely don't be throwing out your oil once you've done deep frying. You can use this oil again up to 2 or 3 more times. Just strain it out through a fine mesh sieve after it's cooled down. Drain and season your balls immediately after coming out of the oil, and now it's time to plate up. I'm going to lay down a smear of the sun-dried tomato aioli, then followed by our 3 deep fried balls. I'm going to delicately place those. And then to finish, I'm going to give it a little drizzle of our basil oil in a squeezy bottle. And then follow it with a few slices of our sun-dried tomatoes, just for a little extra garnish. And there you have it, guys. Our low-waste mushroom arancini is ready to eat and ready to feature as a special at any restaurant. I really hope you enjoyed this recipe, guys, and let me know in the comments what food waste you want me to tackle next. Who doesn't like a deep fried treat? These are absolutely delicious. You got a little bit of crunchiness from the breadcrumbs on the outside, a nice little tanginess from that aioli, and that basil oil. It just brings it all together. Really yummy, really delicious. You got to try this recipe at home, guys.